Without objection, and the statement of all of you will be entered for the record, and I have had the privilege of reading all those statements as well, and I'm going to quote from a couple of them in my opening remarks. Tom Bowman, I want to ask you a question. You and I have been together 2.5 years, correct? In any time during our activities, in my role as chairman of this committee or yours in terms of the leader of the staff, have you ever heard me utter, or for that matter, any member of the committee utter, privatization of veterans' benefits or services being a solution to any problem that we had?
I think that the discussions that I have heard, and both in this room as well as in other briefings, the focus of you as the chairman, ranking member, and other members has been always focused on what is best for the veteran.
And isn't it true that every time we've ever had anything like choice, which was, of course, a huge challenge that we all met, that we used it as a force multiplier for benefits to the veterans, not a replacement for the VA services themselves?
Yes, sir.
And isn't it true that, did you go to Denver with me to the Denver hospital?
Yes, sir.
That was our first field trip, if you will. Actually, it was our first crisis, if I remember correctly. We had a hospital that was supposed to cost $600 million. It was going to run $1.4 billion. It was about to be shut down. Dick Blumenthal went with me. We took he was ranking member at the time, and we went out there, took the bull by the horns, and tried to figure out a way to make it work, but also make sure it never happened again. And through that effort and through Dick's cooperation and his effort and the ranking member, John Tester, that hospital is going to be finished. There are no more cost overruns, at least that's what I'm told and have been led to believe. And we also got the VA out of building big projects it didn't need to be built, and instead got the Corps of Engineers doing them. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
So I think during the course of your service with us, you've been a part of being a catalyst to solve problems, never lose the perspective of the VA being an organization of the United States government whose responsibility it is to serve our veterans, but always looking for the best way to solve the problems, whatever that might be. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Mr. Byrne, in reading your testimony, I want to repeat one sentence in it, which is really very meaningful to me. It said, I'm fortunate to have with me, well, no, that's not it. On induction day at the U.S. Naval Academy some 35 years ago, having been dispossessed of my civilian possessions and most of my hair, I stood with 1,300 classmates to take the oath of office, an oath I have given many times before, to serve something greater than ourselves by supporting and defending the Constitution of the United States of America. That is a great statement, and for everybody that's before us today for confirmation, this is about more than ourselves. This is about something bigger than ourselves. And I want to have a VA that projects itself to our veterans exactly that way. That we know our job is to make sure that they know that we're a part of something much bigger than ourselves, and that they're the most important thing in our job, and that's to see they get the services that they deserve. I also think we talked in my office a little bit, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Byrne, about the accountability legislation and its implementation. Can you give us any idea of how you plan to address the implementation of the accountability bill that was passed by the Senate and the House and is now law?
Yes, sir. I will make it a priority, as I said in my statement, to engage in supporting across the VA the implementation of that act. There's a new office that is being stood up, and as you would imagine, when you have a new office with a new reporting structure, the relationships are going to be very key. In particular, the relationship between the Inspector General, OGC, HR, and this new office. And so I'm coming in with a fresh look at this, understanding that we all need to work very closely together in implementing this act.
Well, I don't want to put any pressure on you, but the success or failure of the accountability program lies squarely on your shoulders.
Yes, sir.
Right, John?
That's fact.
Embrace that.
And John Tester and I are looking to you to tell us, not after the fact, but in advance of any problem you see coming down the road, and let's attack it early, let's attack it often, and let's do whatever we can symbolically to send the signal to the employees of the Veterans Administration that we're working together in unanimity, just like you suggested in the statement I read that you wrote. If we can do that together, elected officials, senior appointed members of the VA, and rank and file employees, then we will change the culture of the Veterans Administration, in my judgment, all for the better. Now, I want to read one of your statements, Mr. Tucker. Y'all did some good work, or somebody did some good work. I don't know if y'all are like me, most of your good speeches come from somebody who wrote them for you, but I'm sure y'all all wrote these yourselves. But I love this statement, Mr. Tucker. It says, those 6.5 years as a Senate staffer confessed me the only way to get the really big things done is to build relationships with sincere and like-minded people of both political parties who are committed to accomplishing the mission together. I think that's music to my ears. And that's exactly the way John and I have tried to operate, and exactly the way Dick and I did when he was ranking member of the committee. And in your job as Assistant Secretary and liaison on Congressional Affairs, you're promoting that attitude is going to be a tremendous help to us. We're not Republican veterans, we're not Democrat veterans, we're veterans of the United States military, and we have a job to do. We want to work together, and our mission is to work together to pull it off, not to count noses to see how many of us there are and how many of them there are. So I appreciate very much your statement and that being your goal. And is there anything you'd like to add to it in terms of how you intend to approach your job to see to it that that statement is something that you manifest itself under your leadership?
Senator, the only thing I would say at this point, without getting into too much detail, is I think that the VA Office of Congressional Legislative Affairs has to have a more active and visible presence on Capitol Hill, and that goes from the senior leadership down to the rank and file in the office. I think there's some work to be done there. I think there's a consolidation that we referenced earlier, and I think that's going to help get more of us out and about and developing the relationships that we need to have.
Well, you know, I'm going to get myself in trouble here because I'm running over time, and I apologize, but one idea I have for you, this may not be a good idea, but I'll admit to that myself. We're always calling people to come before us. Let us ask them questions and testify. It occurred to me when I was reading some of these last night, what if you called us to come over to the VA and let the VA employees ask us questions about why we did what we did on X, Y, or Z? Tom and I tried once early on 2 years ago to go to the VA. We had a town hall meeting in the VA building, but it was too large a crowd to really have the one-on-one back and forth. But I would just tell you that I stand ready, and I'll bet you, and I didn't ask John about this, but I bet you John does too. If you need us every once in a while to come over there and reinforce why we did what we did or explain why we did what we did, good communication between us and the rank and file members of the VA through your conduit of your job in Congressional Liaison can help us avoid some problems. So I offer you as a suggestion, and I'll be willing to keep my word and come if you call me to do so. John Tester.